What's up, y'all? It's Ty. We're back with how good was Kevin Durant at his best, looking at greatest peaks. Shout out to Thinking Basketball for these fantastic videos. Now, look, I'm on record for not being the biggest Kevin Durant fan, Kevin Durant supporter, and there's a reason for it, man. I hated when, he decided to go to the Golden State Warriors. Obviously, at his peak, I can't hate on him as a pure scorer. So let's get into it. Shout out to Thinking Basketball. Subscribe if you're new to the channel.
At the slender age of 21, Kevin Durant finished second in MVP voting on a league best 30 points per game. Over the years, he improved his ball handling, playmaking, and defense, winning the MVP in 2014. But just how good was he in those areas? Should he have been an all-league defender? And was his combination of size, agility, and world
I don't know. I don't think he should have ever been an all-league defender.
class
But
outside
offensively,
shooting
man,
enough to make him the greatest scorer of all time?
that's what people debate. People debate his KD as being the greatest scorer of all time. Again, watch all these videos on my channel if you have not yet, man. These have been absolutely fantastic to go through and react to. So make sure to go show love, man.
KD, what is it that you do better than anybody? And you don't have to be humble here. We're just a small group of friends and people with cameras.
Honestly, I think I score better than anybody.
In Oklahoma City, Durant was a scoring animal, claiming 4 scoring titles in 5 seasons. The Slim Reaper was just the 4th player in league history with a dominant scoring stretch like that, joining Wilt Chamberlain, Michael Jordan, and the one and only
Big Wilt?
Iceman.
You figured it out yet?
No, not that Iceman, but George Gervin, a 6'7" point machine who was all arms and legs too. Gervin had a soft, sweet stroke, lived in the mid-range in that era, and of course he could finger roll. He was also so long he could just shoot right over defenders.
Gervin's jumper looks kind of gross.
Made
to
him
me.
a pre-3-point era prototype for Durant. KD was an upgrade in just about every area. He was even bigger,
Taller,
standing
man.
6'9.5" without shoes. And like Ice, he could work off screens and find little sweet spots to detonate from. But Durant could also launch from behind the arc, and 39% three-point shooting during these seasons juiced his scoring efficiency. You'll notice how many of these shots involve movement, because sliding around to find scoring pockets and then catching and shooting was a huge part of Durant's success.
Man, look at this. You have Clay, KD, and Steph, and teams were supposed to defend against this. Like, come on, man.
59% of his outside shots were assisted, around average among high-volume, long-range shooters. He wasn't a jitterbug without the ball, but he could throw off some defenders, flipping this cut back around the screen beautifully.
That's what I'm saying, man. This Thunder team had the Warriors on the ropes and more.
And because he was a
On the
supersized
ropes.
wing with a 7'5" wingspan, he could drop these right over strong contests from big men. Yet he had enough agility in him to backdoor this action when he felt an overplay, and this takes nice feel to read a defender, and his size made these lobs easy to finish. Because he was such a large target, guards could throw
I really like this Thunder team, man. I really did.
over the top to him like this, and he was slithery enough to catch off a screen and attack all the way to the cup. So in addition to great shooting from the mid-range and deep, KD could put it on the deck and finish in traffic with those praying mantis arms. This dribble drive game was a huge part of his scoring prowess, because if teams tried to run him
That's
off
what you have to do, though. You have to respect his jumper more than
the
anything.
line, he was one dribble from a layup with the size to finish. Kevin could initiate these attacks, flying into a big man and finishing nicely here. But if that big man sagged off in the pick and roll, he could burn them with
Let
his
him have it.
pull-up
I
three.
mean, it's a wide open 3, though.
This put defenses in a serious pickle, because he had the long-range precision of a modern guard, but if they overreacted to his shooting, he could blow by and finish among the trees at the rim. His ball handling and a little bit of shiftiness boosted this penetration game, but he also had some burst in his engines, covering a ton of ground in just a dribble or two.
That's a tough finish, too. I'll be the one to
It
say
looks like he's preparing to use this screen. This defender is worried about a pull-up 3, so he crosses back over and accelerates downhill for free throws.
Look at the Spurs, man. They were dogging him.
By the way, putting KD on the line was a bad idea, since he shot a little under 90% in those years, and he was able to get there with some regularity thanks to tricks like the rip-through move. He also would drive into some contact. There's a huge crossover, and he just plows into the help for the +1. But Durant's rim finishing
was on AED too, who was a great
about
defender.
his speed and long strides than strength or physicality. He builds up a head of steam here, picks up his dribble at the free throw line, and sidesteps to create a little opening, and he's so long it's a drop in the bucket. That's usually some smothered chicken by Tim Duncan against a smaller
It's an
player.
and one.
Durant used these Euro-like steps to slip past defenders in space, and here Kawhi Leonard runs him off the line. Durant wisely attacks his front leg, and then look at all the ground he covers with a single stride. Big men were often worried about Durant's pull-up. It was a larger part of his attack than getting all the way to the hoop, so he could use
I mean, especially as Durant's age, that's what he wants more than anything is that pull.
a little hesitation to freeze them and then gallop home with those long legs. He didn't get to the basket as often as someone like LeBron did, but when he did, Durant was extremely efficient, finishing with the 14th best field goal percentage at the rim.
I didn't know it. Honestly, I didn't know that. I didn't know it was that high.
Like LeBron, KD was a weapon in transition. Sometimes he'd turn up the speed and pressure backpedaling opponents, and he could also run to the three-point line and drop daggers from there as a finisher. These skills work together. This defender jumps to the three-point line, but Durant just floors it for the flush.
Right by him.
And the interplay between long-range shooting and hard drives like this made him an elite transition scorer during these seasons. He also liked
His
to
shot is so
walk
pretty,
into
man.
threes in semi-transition. There's that range again. And between his long arms and a little elevation, his release point on these was nearly unblockable. Little hops and hesitation moves force defenders to worry about his drive, and that creates enough airspace to stroke these pull-ups over the outstretched
Big
arms
Roo gotta get up.
of the longest
What are we doing,
defender
Ro?
in the game. Even more so than Gervin before him, Durant's ability to just rise up over players and
come
rain
on, man,
jumpers
that's
on their
ridiculous.
head gave him access to mid-range shots almost on demand. Of course, this is the least efficient of his scoring zones, but by 2016, he improved his mid-range accuracy to about 49%,
Like, you're not getting better than that.
a jump of over 4 percentage points from his earlier seasons when he won MVP, and enough to regularly land him at or near the top of the league from this distance. However, as a three-point shooter, KD was far more accurate in catch-and-shoot situations than off of these pull-ups. From 2014 to 18, he was a scorching 43% on catch-and-shoot attempts, according to Second Spectrum's optical tracking,
So pretty.
but he was just under 35% on his pull-ups.
And 35% is not horrible, but compared to the 44 he shot off catch and shoot, not
So
nearly as good.
he wasn't quite as lethal on these self-generated attempts. He could certainly generate shots with his back to the basket, again using his size to just rise up
I'm saying it's so hard to find a defender for KD because he's so
over
long.
defenders, while comfortably working out of the mid-post area to find little fadeaways or turnarounds like this. His post game included a mini Dirk Nowitzki impression, occasionally flashing that ridiculous one-legged fall-away like the big German himself. Durant's height allowed him to take smaller players to the block.
I mean, that's Fry. It's Patty Mills. He's getting
Undersized guards like this offered little resistance that close to the hoop, but stick bigger forwards on him, and he could torture them by running around screens. Bigger players aren't used
what
to
it looked like in the playoffs with Cat guarding
chasing
him,
world-class outside shooters, and Kevin was most comfortable catching and shooting without a dribble like this. Durantula's ability to score at 3 levels, both on and off the ball, made him arguably the greatest regular season
And look at how efficient he is,
scorer
too.
we've ever seen. In the playoffs, however, his effectiveness fell back to earth just a bit.
Still really
which
good,
still
though.
made him one of the great scorers in league history. Like all players, his statistics were influenced by his teammates and his opponents. Without a teammate to break down defenses and set him up for easier looks, Durant's numbers as the lone offensive focal point look quite different than when he plays next to another star.
Yeah, him on the Warriors was literally unfair.
From 2014 to 18, with Russell Westbrook or Steph Curry on the court next to him, KD's scoring efficiency looks really good compared to other high-volume scorers.
Ridiculous.
But without those star guards occupying defensive attention, he took a sizable dip in efficiency.
And that's for me, like, what my holdup with KD is. He's always been surrounded by so much talent.
Because he had to create more
Look where
of
he's
his
at now
own
in Phoenix.
offense, there was a significant increase in his unassisted field goals in those situations. Now, thinking basketball regulars know that carrying an offense as a lone star isn't the be-all, end-all. There's arguably more value in creating scoring next to other high-end talent. Still, both roles are relevant, especially since so much of Kevin Durant's impact is rooted in his scoring game and the opportunities that scoring game helped him create for his teammates.
Look at big Steven Adams. I hope Steven Adams has a healthy year next year, man.
Another vicious dunking last night. Here's what we know. Suspect is 6'9", wiry, short hair, nice.
6'9", he's not 6'9", he's more like 6'11".
Smile.
Anyway.
Wiry?
In 2016, the Thunder took a 73-win Warriors team to the brink before New York City tourist Klay Thompson went into NBA Jam mode in Game 6 and helped Golden State survive in a classic 7-game series. That was one of Durant's bumpier series during his prime, largely because the Warriors overloaded his side while ignoring his weaker shooting teammates. Sliding an extra defender smack into KD's driving lane allowed for greater ball pressure and pushed him into difficult contested jumpers.
And that's the thing, like, it's tough, and you see this a lot in the playoffs, like, teams load up on stars.
This made it harder to attack the rim, and a decent decline in shooting percentages at the hoop was one reason why Durant's playoff scoring lagged behind his regular season output. With both outside defenders hugged in and
like
up,
Roberson, are we serious? I know he was a great defender, but come on, man.
Into Durant's driving gaps, Klay plays
I feel
him
bad for Durant. You had Roberson or Russell Westbrook, Steven Adams on the court. What are you supposed to do?
And Durant fumbles it, which kills a ton of clock and leads to a desperate attempt.
It's not a bad
Andre
look,
Robertson's
honestly.
open because he's a 28% shooter from the corner. When KD played in Golden State, defenses couldn't pack the paint on him because of the Splash Brothers' threat to shoot, so scoring became easier for him.
Yeah, but it's like, what are you supposed to do? I
There's
mean,
an entire video on this channel about these extreme differences if you're interested. For instance, the Warriors just ignore Serge Ibaka on this play to drop a defender into the lane, and that leads to a ball handling turnover from Kevin. Despite some of these slick crossovers that helped him penetrate or pull up,
there's just so much attention defensively on him.
had
though.
his share of fumbles and flubs as such a tall ball handler. Dribbling through a sea of defenders might work for Leo Messi, but in basketball, passing is the natural counter. We've seen this from other modern wings in this series, where soft doubles are attacked with timely and accurate skip passes. Durant could throw these passes at this point in his career,
But it's just hard when it's to Andre Roberson.
although it could take him a beat to recognize one of
This is
these.
Deion Waiters?
This is a bit of a floater, which makes the first closeout easier, but still leads to a good shot. Again, notice he gathers himself first, but then flicks a quick pass, the kind that makes it harder to close out to, and it ends up in a 3-ball in the corner pocket. KD did have some diversity on his releases, and passing off the bounce with his right hand like that exploited gaps. Defenders can't anticipate the pass, making slingshots like this much harder to react to.
What are they doing? I mean, it worked out, but like, can Russell Westbrook shoot
Here's
a layup,
a
please?
great delivery out
What,
of
in the triple-double boost?
pick and roll, blending a dribble into a skip pass, and
That's
again,
a
throwing
dime, but
early
it's to Roberson.
provides more time for any shooter who was good enough to close out to, and Durant's handle and some passing flexibility let him play make out of these pick and roll actions. Remember, defenses still had to focus on him as a pull-up weapon off of screens.
That's so tough.
And he could use that threat to find pass increases, here going to the hesitation and then passing after freezing the defender.
Bro, Zaza, oh my gosh, what are you doing?
And he could make little pocket passes like this too with his rolling big man, although this particular pass was actually a thorn in his side, leading to plenty of batted balls and turnovers.
It's just a tough pass. It really is.
These passes can't just be mindlessly flicked into empty space, and KD had lackadaisical moments as a distributor, throwing deliberate or even telegraphed passes. Here's one where he fires it off a leg initially, but on the recovery comes back to it with a little drop-off, and these were some of his better passes.
JaVale was a freak,
to
man.
punish helping
I ain't gonna
defenders
lie, he was
when
athletic.
he got downhill. I like that he's
I can't stand when players make good passes and the bigs can't finish. Like, dunk the basketball.
through some of these laydowns early. That's a pretty quick reaction to nearly set up a dunk, and it requires solid vision to identify openings like this as they begin to emerge. He's still not someone I'd call a natural playmaker, though. He was thinking score first, here instinctively dribbling before spotting the wide open layup. This meant he wasn't a really strong off-ball passer, in part because he was looking to catch and score on these. He could make
But
this
a lot of times there's not an angle, and that's what people don't understand. Is yes, somebody looks open, but there's got to be an angle to get it to him.
pass off a curl,
That's the big
but
thing
it
for me.
wasn't a consistent
It's like, yes, that's
find for
a
him.
good pass right there.
On this one, he just misses a wide open look under the rim, and
At this point, yes, you can throw it to the
This
empty side. Yeah.
looks like one of those problematic ball handling situations where he wasn't smooth picking up his dribble.
Ugh.
This one's a more basic pick and roll attack, right-handed dribble into tons of space, under control, and he gets below the free throw line for a gorgeous little drop-off.
But look at all the attention they had to put on Steph on that side.
However,
it's crazy.
he didn't always take that extra dribble. That's a nice little pocket pass, but if KD attacks the gap, it gets his roll man a step deeper.
Maybe, but Lowry might just step in, and then you got Westbrook and Roberson on the same side. It's just tough.
And
'cause of
potentially
spacing.
opens up the corner pass. We saw LeBron James regularly take that dribble last episode, whereas Durant was often quick to pick it up near traffic.
It's because he
or-
doesn't want to get
Or
stripped.
not always attack these gaps. This is a 2-on-1 with the roll man, but even though the defender starts retreating, he pulls up for a tricky jumper instead of applying more pressure. In transition, he didn't need to get deep into the paint because his speed and pull-up shooting provided enough pressure to draw extra defensive attention. And when he did push,
That's the problem. You make a good pass. and
having his head up
to
and
Russell
more space
Westbrook, man.
made these more comfortable hookups for him. Speaking of transition, he played with a one-man fast break in Westbrook, who carved up defenses himself
Westbrook,
with
this is where he's at his
violent
best, man.
bursts of speed. That Thunder team
where
was really a
Westbrook is at his
two-man
best.
operation with role players flanking them in support, and Westbrook had some chemistry setting up Durant as part of his off-ball game. KD couldn't create for his teammates like Westbrook, but estimates of his shot creation land him at about 85% of Kobe Bryant's peak from episode 10, making him a grade A offensive centerpiece. Durant might
Like, Durant can do a lot, but the thing is, it's like, even if you look at him in OKC, like, you have non-shooters everywhere. So it's like, yes, a guy that takes his pull-up jump shots at 49% or 45 back then, it's like they needed somebody like that.
not have been ideal in a heliocentric role as a lone offensive creator.
Look at all
his
these passes to
off-ball
bricks,
game
man.
added tons of value next to other competent playmakers. KD could space the floor for his teammates, especially as a power forward, and his shooting provided some gravity that made things easier for other players on offense. This is a highly scalable attack, able to plug in next to other superstars without the ball
It's just
and
ridiculous.
add value as a secondary playmaker.
Like, that's the thing. In Golden State, you can't double
Between
team.
his elite scoring, off-ball shooting, and solid ability to create for others, Durant's been part of some seriously high-end offenses. First in OKC, in spite of some of their spacing issues.
OKC
and then
had Andre Roberson, Steven Adams on the court at the same time, and they were a good
as a
offense.
key piece in Golden State.
You
where he
can't tell me that's not because of KD.
joined an incredible attack and made them even better.
It's ridiculous.
On defense, Durant's versatility played right into the Warriors' switching scheme. This allowed them to play the vaunted Hamptons 5 lineup, with KD adding an element of rim protection to a smaller group. That expansive 7'5" wingspan gave him some rim protecting chops, and as a small forward, he was a high-end shot blocker. Take this play, where he's actually late to rotate and help, but once he arrives, he can defend a big right at the rim.
Poor Zaza, man. He's been picked apart in this
So as a wing on the court, he was an additional paint defender who could challenge high-value shots like this. And when he played the 4, he was still able to plug up the backline with all that
That's
length.
great D.
And of course, he could switch multiple positions. He starts out guarding Draymond Green, but picks up Clay out of this scrum, and then slides up and defends the goal with those pterodactyl wings. Here's a clutch
It's
play where
ridiculous.
Golden State switched to ball screen because good luck attacking Draymond Green. So that leaves Thompson on
They
a
gotta get out.
bigger skilled post player, and with Draymond on the perimeter, Durant can still come over and defend it. This
That
kind
looked
of
like
length
goaltending to
and
me, but
versatility
still good D.
is perfect for these spaced out switching defenses that became more popular during these seasons. Now, despite Durant's size, he wasn't a defensive big man by nature, and that meant he wasn't that physical down low and didn't take up space in traffic or throw his body onto powerful players. He also wasn't comfortable planting himself in driving lanes and playing goalkeeper, and would often contest shots from deeper under the basket. He didn't have the best timing as a shot blocker.
I mean, he's being somewhat impactful.
He jumps way before the shooter here, and it's a foul. This held him back a little bit as a
That's
shot
pretty decent defense,
blocker,
honestly.
but the more important issue was not always being in position to defend some of these shots.
Prime
Kevin
Capella's
could
crazy.
be a bit spacey at times. You see him check the corner, then stare right at this cut as it unfolds, yet he doesn't react until the ball almost arrives. If he moved earlier, he's not going
He
to be
was still fine.
buried under the rim,
Like, Thompson
or there
doesn't
might
wanna
not be a
go up.
pass at all.
It's just Braun is different.
Some of these plays were classic cases of ball watching while a cutter flew by, and he could have momentary lapses, assuming this was going to
Man,
be a
Russell
handoff.
Westbrook versus KD after KD left was such primetime television.
And there's that mistimed jump on the recovery. Vision could also be an issue too. There were moments where he struggled to locate the basketball, and I'm not sure he knew a pass was made when he was called to switch onto the shooter. Chasing players off ball like
He
this
probably didn't worry much about that shot that was just taken. though.
occupied some of those limited attentional resources, and his size made navigating screens a bit tricky, especially in
It
an
would
era
be,
where
like 7
offensive
feet
linemen,
tall.
screeners can move pretty liberally. On this one, he's preparing for one screen, but it's reversed, and without tight cornering skills, Durant takes a wide path back to the
So
shooter,
wide.
so it's a clean look. When he was guarding the dribble, path back to the shooter, so it's a clean look.
Kawhi tweaked
When
his
he was
ankle on
guarding the
bench.
dribbler directly, he could still get hung up on ball screens like this, but he could also fight through some of these screens, battling the pick while keeping ball handlers within that giant reach of his.
Good D, KD.
Switching schemes were ideal for KD precisely because he had some success against a variety of players on the perimeter. He
Yo,
had
hold
some
up.
success
Watch Draymond's foot here. Yo, Draymond is so dirty. Watch his foot. Wait,
against a
wait for it.
variety
Wait for it.
of
Watch his
players
foot.
on the
He tries tripping KD.
precisely because he had some success against a
Watch his foot.
variety of players
That's not natural.
on the
That is not natural. Draymond. Is that Draymond?
perimeter.
That is
The
Draymond, right?
emphasis
Yeah, it
here-
is. That's so dirty, dude. That's so dirty. I have such issues with
Is
Draymond
on
Green.
some
He's
because
the
he could offer
dirtiest dude
really
in the league,
effective
dude.
possessions against elite wing players
Ridiculous.
when all of his lateral movements synced up with the ball handler,
He can play
or when
D,
he
man.
didn't have to react to sudden stop and go moves, and then that length could work wonders. Against shiftier opponents, he was vulnerable to sudden changes in direction. It's a lot for him to snap his hips around to track Curry here. And in general, he didn't have great acceleration from a standstill when he was in a defensive stance like this. Compare that to a more straight line attack with KD swiveling his hips at an angle to stay with the drive, and that's a nice defensive stand.
Yeah, it is. That's good D.
Here's another one against a Curry pullback, and because Durant can decelerate well, his length just eats this up.
And he's just so long,
Good
man.
post scorers with some muscle could find success against him near the bucket. But he was rarely
I mean, even Cat in the playoffs had some success against KD.
a mismatch when checking bigs down on the block, since he was often just as tall as them.
This dude?
And his capacity to mix perimeter responsibilities with big man responsibilities, like rotating back to the paint after guarding a pick and roll, is a nice value add in any flexible switching scheme, the kind that tends to have more value throughout the gauntlet of the postseason.
Bro, what is this guard doing?
Metrics on defense are a bit up and down, but on average they see him as a small positive, and I think that's in the right ballpark.
I think that's probably accurate. I don't think he was a great defender. Small positive,
which puts his overall numbers in the vicinity of some of the other greats in this series. His numbers were actually better in Golden State, swapping in his
But it's not even fair when he was in Golden State.
2019 playoffs in place of his final run in OKC, where he was dragged down by some poor shooting. Some of that shooting might have been bad luck, but some of it was being a primary focal point.
Yeah, he's taking tougher shots.
Defenses could load up on. In Golden State, he was able to blend his on-ball scoring with his considerable off-ball talents in a more ideal, hybridized role that didn't strain his self-generated scoring or ask too much of his playmaking. This hybrid package helped him generate impressive offenses next to a ball-dominant player like Russell Westbrook, and then turn a great offense into the best one ever in Golden State.
Man, that team was literally so unfair.
So while he wasn't a classic offensive quarterback, his incredible shooting and overall scoring package, along with his versatile, positive defense, combined to give Kevin Durant
he's good.
One of the greatest peaks in NBA history.
Here's my thing on it, okay? Like, I want to see Kevin Durant, and I never will, but I would want to see how his career unfolds, not next to a 73-9 team. And I know that's wrong of me to say, but that's just the truth. I mean, you compare that to like what James Harden was dealing with at the time in Houston. Like, those teams are so polar opposites. At the time, I'll say it, in these years, I think James Harden was a better scorer than Kevin Durant. Like, it maybe like 2017. I don't know if that's the exact timeline we're talking about here, but like 2017, 2018. Give me James Harden as a scorer, or as an offensive player, I should say, over Kevin Durant. Let me know your thoughts on that down below in the comments. Offense player, including passing, including everything. Drop a like on the video, subscribe if you're new, and as always, man, I love you guys. Have a blessed day.